Again, I hate to use the cringy title with you guys, and I have used them before. Yikes. But basically, this is one trick that will help you clean more weight. However, this trick just happens to be very, very difficult to master. It's kind of like saying there's a nice trick to gain more weight on your squat. That trick is just progressive overload for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. But basically this trick or whatever is really based off of one thing that you can see in your clean. If you're doing it, you'll know that you're doing it wrong and you'll know the way to fix it. And that is the trajectory of your hips after contact. Now, typically when you make contact, it should be with the high thigh. Some people are with the hips, but I would suggest the high thigh. So the hips come up and forward for extension, but they should almost retreat into a good maximal depth squat position. However, a lot of times, and this is something that you guys can video yourself and see, the hips will come forward and they'll stay forward in that position. And what happens is when they drop in that forward position, they come down to a point where they can't physically go any deeper and they slip out back to go even deeper. Typically, when you have this fault and when the weight gets heavy, you won't be able to stand up the weight on the first bounce. And even though you may stand up the weight after bouncing and recollecting yourself, it becomes much more difficult to hit a maximum jerk. After all, the sport requires a clean and jerk, not just a clean. So here's a little example of this. This is one of my lifters, and this is something that we are working on together. He has a couple of problems with his pull. His hips rise a little bit too quickly, and he doesn't extend all the way. But what you can see is after contact, his hips stay in a forward position and they almost slide straight down from there. And then obviously you see he has to double bounce out. Basically, there's a flow to the pull. And what you need to understand is that after contact, you need to have control over the bar with your upper body, with specifically your traps and your arms. And this is something like Alexei, who has a very prevalent YouTube channel and social media following, teaches. He teaches people to keep their hips away and let the pull basically flow into the third pull. And the number one drill, or in this case trick, to fix this is just the simple high pull. And when you start to do the high pull near maximal clean loads, you will realize how weak you are in the upper back and the arms. Once you extend, keep your feet planted and use your arms to keep the bar floating, keeping your elbows high. My intention is to extend very hard into the barbell and stay upright instead of reaching my shoulders back. The shoulders do get back in a lot of cases, and some people like Toma, someone who I've talked about before, she gets her shoulders way back behind the bar, but her hips also retreat back as well. Right? It's one thing to get your shoulders back behind the bar. That's okay. And it's okay to happen for one instance, but only okay if you can get your hips back to a good squatting position. And this is why Alexei and all of the Ukrainians and the Soviets teach very vertical extensions and staying into the bar. And this is because if you focus on pulling back and using your hips, it's hard to get your hips in a place where you can catch the squat. So give this complex a go. One pull plus one clean, and try to keep your tempo nice and try to keep your shoulders forward as you extend instead of ducking under the bar. Stand tall, use your arms, use your upper back to rack the barbell, and hopefully this will help you. It's a very quick video, but I find that this is consistently happening across the board with my lifters, and this is something that I try to fix all the time. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's all I got.
It's true, I crave you.